Cradle to cradle, how did it dawn on you, and when? At what point?
Well, if the sun is shining on the earth and it's a dead rock in space with water, what happens? We get soil, we get humus, and that we come from the humus, and that's why they call us humans. And humility is to be grounded. So I decided if I go forward in life, I'm going into the arts because political science is so miserable. And I'm going to the arts because mathematical science is beyond my ability to comprehend. But I can work as an architect and design creative things, and I can design buildings like trees that have their roots in the ground and create biodiversity and celebrate photosynthesis and make more energy than they need to operate from photons and things like that. So that's where I got started. So I started designing buildings that are powered by the sun and the materials are safe and healthy. Then I met an ecotoxicologist, Michael Braungart. We started talking, and then we wrote Cradle to Cradle. And so when we talk about things as cradle to grave, which is the current paradigm of industry, the linear economy, take, make, waste. So you take it from nature, you make something out of it, and then you throw it away. Well, away has gone away. Where's away? We now see the whole planet. There's no away here. We can see it all now. Or we would burn it. So it was really like a grave or a crematorium, because we have a human projection on the objects. So we say they have end of life of a telephone. Really? It's not a living thing. So we say end of use. And if you say end of use, then you say, well, what's the next use? So now we design for end of use, we design for next use. This is cradle to cradle, from cradle to cradle. And you move to the next use. So across generations, we can reuse plastics, we can reuse glass, reuse metal, reuse things, and we can even reuse ecosystems if we're part of it. If we do sustainable forestry, for example, if we do sustainable behaviors. I think what you're seeing with what Greta is doing is she's refusing, right? And refusing is the first step of things. And then if you look at the plastics or you look at the atmospheric changes with fugitive atmospheric carbon or fugitive durable carbon in the oceans and things like that, the first job is to refuse. So the idea of saying no more of this is the first job. Then we reduce, then we reuse, then we recover, then we recycle. If we get back things that aren't clean or healthy, then we upcycle, we purify them. Then we compost and get back the hydrogen, oxygen, carbon in pure form to help the soil. Then we regenerate from that, and then finally we find ourselves with refuse, which is the thing with which we know not what to do. And that is waste of the worst kind, toxic materials, radioactive materials, things we don't know what to do with, probably should never have made in the first place. So the short version of that poem would be refuse, refuse, which is funny because it's spelled the same, pronounced differently. So it's eliminate the concept of waste, not minimize, avoid, reduce. Eliminate the entire concept of waste. That's the meta message here. And what she's saying is you're wasting the world and you're leaving us with this wasteland. You're turning the earth into a wasteland, and that is not a fair thing to give to a next generation.
Been receptive towards the notion of circular economy. And I talk about the private sector, but I'm trying that your message also permeates and goes all the way to the small businesses that truly, at least in Chile, also in Germany, 80-90% of the economy thrives because of these small business. And oftentimes this conversation might, they think, this is too grand of a thing for me. How do I incorporate it into my way of doing things?
So imagine if you're a local grocery store and you're not allowed to use plastic bags anymore, and you have to start thinking about it, right? What happens? It's not the end of the world. You know, when was the last time you saw a sea turtle being strangled by a paper bag, right? So it's not that complicated, really. We can start to think about it. How do we design things that can go back to soil or even back into the oceans in a way that isn't terrifying? So, okay, so there's opportunity everywhere. And even people who have a little grocery store, you know, if you did like the French do, just give somebody a string bag and say, here's your bag from our little store, come and use it all the time, you know, and you become a customer. You become a customer for life instead of this customer of death. It's kind of interesting. So there are opportunities everywhere in this. And as far as the businesses go, it's fantastic for business. So you bake it into the business. You don't add it. Don't think of it as an added cost. Because then you go, my business like this, and then you're adding costs. No, forget it. You're actually integrating it. And that's when it becomes really valuable.